This is the Open University devised by Momus, a Scottish electronic folk singer.
Kind of weird. I'm wondering what the story is behind these post-it notes. That was my local cat. It's like rent a cat. You don't actually get your own cat in your own house. You get to pet someone else's cat. In that case, the Chinese store where I buy my matcha and fig biscuits and my jasmine rice. This shop always interests me. It's called La Galconte, and it has old newspapers and magazines. Little marina is at Bastille. It might not be very well known, I'm not sure. There's a guided tour up at the top there talking about the area. Of course, up at the end there was the Bastille, the famous Bastille, which fell during the Revolution, and it was the home for many years to the Marquis de Sade, so that's where he wrote his 120 Days of Sodom, etc. I was just reading reviews of the novel by Miranda July called All Fours, having seen just some sort of casual reference to it in a newspaper article, and it was interesting just how divisive that novel was. All Fours, I guess, refers to the fact that it's about women in their 40s, so it's about postmenopausal sex mostly, and the story is that a woman leaves her husband to discover herself on a cross-American car trip, but having planned to leave Los Angeles and end up at the Carlisle Hotel in New York, she just stops off in a motel about 20 miles away from where she lives, and then spends $20,000 on redecorating the motel room. This was the money she'd planned to spend on a suite at the Carlisle, and she has various affairs, including with the decorator she spends all this money redecorating with. And gosh, I wonder who all these boat owners are in central Paris. It's kind of weird. One of the reasons I'm doing this vlog so soon after my last vlog went up is that I just bought yesterday an old Video 8 camera, a Sony Video 8 from about 1990, because I have all this library of old Video 8 cassettes back in Berlin, part of my archive, which I don't have access to anymore because I don't have the equipment to play it. I had a Video 8 deck which was stolen when I had storage. When I was living in Osaka and all my stuff was in boxes in Berlin, someone stole all the interesting revendable stuff from my storage. So I did buy a replacement, like a little camera which looked like it would work in the Berlin market, but it didn't work. So yesterday I found this briefcase absolutely stock full of enormous video equipment, the kind of camera that you had to balance on your shoulder because it was so heavy. And that reminded me that I have this tiny and much better video camera which someone gave me for free. I mean, I paid 40 euros for this, and it was all in perfect working order. It's actually quite exciting when you get it home and you find that everything still works after decades of neglect, or perhaps it's never been used. One careful owner, as they say. So I do want to find a video 8 cassette. I don't actually have one. Some of the scenes around here are familiar perhaps from the video I made for Nino Rota, that track which is on the Yikes album. I walked down here on a very gloomy grey winter's day. Today there's a crisp little bite of winter still left, but it's basically spring, and by next week it's going to be over 20 degrees here and sunny, so it's going to be nice. And then I'm taking off for Scotland, initially China, Korea, Japan for a couple of months. I love these barges. They always remind me of the scene at the end of Boy Meets Girl. I was just referring to the beginning of Boy Meets Girl when Alex, the character, says he's never going to leave Paris and that Paris contains everything he ever needs. There's a scene at the end where a sand barge is heading towards Le Havre. Wait, is that in Boy Meets Girl or is that the next film? I think it might be I think it's the end of Les Amants de Pont-Neuf, because it contradicts the message of Boy Meets Girl, which is that you don't need anything outside of Paris. They actually jump into a barge heading to Le Havre, a barge full of sand, taking them out of Paris, presumably. You can't really be depressed in Paris in the spring if you live in central Paris and you can walk around, you have your health. There's not really much that can go wrong. So my sartorial look for today is British Freep jacket, which this is my favourite current jacket because it's got this ruched, rough quality to it, and a shirt from APC, which is actually bought in a branch of Emmaus. Emmaus, the chain founded by l'Abbé Pierre, continues under the name Emmaus, but it used to be pictures of l'Abbé Pierre, the founder, on all the branches' walls. Those have been removed now because he was implicated in a sex scandal. Yet another of the saintly fallen. He might have been fast-tracked to sainthood, actually, l'Abbé Pierre, until this happened. But and then the pants are Osakan Japanese carpenter's pants. Along here, if you recall, I was doing the dance. Wow, doing a dance on around this maypole, which is actually a kind of mooring post made of cast iron or something. Oh, some leaves now on this willow tree, that's nice. And you can see the refurbished, or mostly refurbished, Notre Dame Cathedral there, which is not one of my favourite cathedrals. I like the B list of churches much better than the A list, and I tend to avoid touristy places anyway, which is going to be an issue in Kyoto, because pretty much everywhere in Kyoto, where we're spending about 6 weeks, is touristified heavily. But at least it's a short commute to pretty much anywhere in Kansai or up Lake Biwa towards Kanazawa. There are lots of places you can go where the tourists don't tend to go. At least they didn't in the past. I don't know if that's still the case. One of the things I'm going to do is replace my shoes. I go to Amagasaki and get these very cheap $10 carpenter's shoes to go with the carpenter's pants. So I'm going to get a new pair of those because these are hell to lace and unlace. These are Muji recycled shoes, and they no longer sell them in Muji. I've gone through 2 pairs of them and they tend to fall apart fairly quickly. So we're alongside a road which used to be dedicated to traffic, to car traffic, and is now a pedestrian and cycleway. Part of the ongoing anti-car policies of the mayor, Anne Hidalgo, Spanish-born Paris mayor, who's a socialist and who I very much approve of. I approve of her policies and her drive to make the city human-scaled instead of car-scaled. This would have been a polluting nightmare before. Cars going all the way down the side of the river, and now it's just human beings and homeless people. Amazing that you see the shadow, the size of this gimbal compared with the thing I bought yesterday, which would be a vast shadow on my shoulder. There we go, a bit of contre-jour. I would like to jam on this organ. I am the life and the resurrection. My school Latin class is standing me in good stead here. So a very brief visit to a church, but I always find it refreshing because it's such a different atmosphere, and there's so many crooked old things like this staircase and the strange door. That was the Paroisse Catholique Saint-Louis-en-Lille, and Vigie Pirate, look out for pirates. You can almost disguise your gimbal as an ice cream here. There's so many people walking along with something held up close to their mouths. This is a City of Paris advert showing the electricians and the workers who are actually working on the cathedral, which is ironic since it was the workers' neglect which started the fire in the first place. Building materials set alight. This is a franchise, so basically when you open a branch of this, there are some style guidelines, and I guess they inspect you. You have to give them like 100,000 euros for the right to operate the franchise, and then it's up to you to run it and take a split of the profits, I guess. And you have to use their beans, obviously, from Brazil. One of the reasons I love this cafe is because the mirror is so flattering. One of the interesting things about living in a city where you lived 30 years ago, which is kind of scary. I lived here in the mid-90s, and basically I have all these layers of maps, a sort of archaeological series of layers of maps of this place. And this street we're on now, I vaguely remember that I bought a whole bunch of flat pack cardboard furniture, which was kind of amazing. It folded up into chairs. This was before IKEA was sort of known for that kind of thing, and also it was all made of cardboard, so it was kind of cheap, although it was sort of designer one-off furniture. Can't remember the name of the guys who made it, but they were based around here. So I bought all these bookshelves made of cardboard, which were attached by chopsticks through little holes, and also these chairs. So my flat on the Place de Tertre, up at the top of the hill, La Butte Montmartre, was actually furnished with cardboard. It must have been a real fire hazard, but it worked, and the books were all held in place. This was the only part of Paris which used to be occupied. It was called Lutèce, or Lutetia, the city back in Roman times. And this hill, down the north side of this hill, was the center of Lutèce. The bookshops of Lutèce, featuring, I was going to say Dostoevsky, but of course it's Solzhenitsyn. Power does not protect you, it protects itself. An Irish cultural centre. This is a street I've never walked down, as far as I know. Exactitude is not truth. So now we're on the Room of Tao, retracing our steps in the video for 30,000 Nights, which was actually just shot because the lighting was nice. I didn't shoot it with the song in mind, but it fitted the song quite well. That was at Christmas, because there's a Santa Claus who suddenly appeared. And I was comparing it in one of my previous Open University videos to Unfinished Sympathy video by Bailey Walsh. Shot in Los Angeles with various actors apparently appearing at random. In mine it really was random. The lighting is pretty similar to how it was when I shot that video. Did doing this street work. I always like when the street is broken up a bit and kind of definitely doesn't look like cars could ever go down it. But I guess they're going to just re-cobble here since it's a traditional cobbled street. Surprisingly uncrowded considering it's a Saturday. We have a nice contre-jour effect. There's a very good bingsu shop near here called Plus 82 Korean. This is kind of nice. I like the street art, which is not looking too much like the cliches of street art. This is a funny comment on the tourism of Paris and how street art becomes just a dimension of tourism rather than an illegal activity. Here it is being guided as if it were one of the official attractions. There's a very good film by Agnès Varda about this street called Opera Bouffe. Opera Mouffe, which is a play on the term Opera Bouffe. It's from the late 50s. One of her first films. It's got great music and it's like a little musical take on the inhabitants of this street who were at the time not overrun by tourists. I hate that term overrun though. The word over implies we're going to take some measures against this freedom to be a tourist. This has the quality of being very village-like. A lot of parts of Paris plunge you into sudden unexpected villages. Although you're in the largest and most dense city in continental Europe, nevertheless you're suddenly in a little town or a little village with local shops and produce, and that's very charming. And of course Paris knows it's charming and plays on its charm and earns money from its charm. Jeff de Bruges, this is obviously a Belgian chain of chocolate. This is where I saw the Santa last time when I was doing my video. This time a cyclist replaces Santa. I used to come here in the 80s looking at this street and really enjoying it. In fact, I used to drive my girlfriend of the time, who was studying in Paris at the Sciences Po. She was an economist. I would come and stay with her at the Cité Universitaire, which is a funny campus with individual nations' houses, each in their own national architecture style. She was in the Belgian house, and I would say, I want to go to small streets. I don't want to see these big avenues. And she would say, for God's sake, just shut up about these small streets. But this was the kind of thing I wanted to come to. This was my idea of what Paris should be. Here we come into the bottom of the Rue Mouffetard. Should we look in this? Wow, he's selling a book called Symbolism of Castration. Castration Symbolisme. Interesting. Jésus-Christ t'aime, il a donné sa vie pour sauver. Jesus loves you, he gave his life to save you. Making me feel guilty already. Not bad sort of Gothic style, though I prefer the more Romanesque churches. This is another of my pet interests, is the propaganda dissemination technology in churches. This is an interesting kind of little stand for pamphlets, which fits all paper sizes. This is quite amusing. What do you do when one vlogger meets another? This is someone live vlogging. Chinese live vlog next to a Scottish live vlog. This is a donkey bakery. We're approaching a second-hand shop up here, which is run by an old man called Gilles, who's an eccentric who went to art school and has art collections on the walls. And he's got this black dog which looks like a mangy old black fur coat, which lies on heaps of clothing on the ground and really stinks. So my girlfriend refuses to go into Gilles' shop. But no day is complete without a visit to a second-hand shop, so I'm going to give it a go. Here's his shop, it's with the red door. It's filthy, it's really filthy, but interesting clothes. You know, once you get the smell out of them. And it's called Eileen. I don't know who is Eileen, but he likes this style. Bonjour. What's going on with that dog? It seems to have its jaw wedged open and its tongue hanging out. Just a quick glimpse at Les Arènes de Lutèce, the arenas of old Paris, the Roman arena. I don't know if it was rebuilt. I guess it must have been reconstructed in concrete at some point. I'm not sure if gladiators were put to death here like they were at the Circus Maximus. And now it's all frisbees. Frisbees being put to death. I love these editions with the owl. Entering the Jardin des Plantes to look at the blossom. I always think of Rilke when I come in here because he was the assistant of Rodin, the sculptor, who I think had a workshop in here. And so some of the famous Neue Gedichte, the new poems of Rilke, are featuring things like the panther in the zoo here. The panther. His vision from the constantly passing bars has grown so weary that it cannot hold anything else. It seems to him that there are 1,000 bars, and behind the bars, no world. As he paces in cramped circles over and over, the movement of his powerful, soft strides is like a ritual dance around a center in which a mighty will stands paralyzed. Only at times the curtain of the pupils lifts quietly. An image enters in, rushes down through the tensed, arrested muscles, plunges into the heart, and is gone.
Open University.